Correspondent Jason Jones, plus the sheriff of Terrell County, Texas, and retired Border Patrol agent Sheriff Thaddeus Cleveland. Jason, let's start with you. We know you're on the front lines. You get exclusive looks at things all the time. What has gone on the last few days? And the latest report out now that the Biden administration was secretly flying about 320,000 migrants over the border undetected here. What can you tell us?
Yeah, that was all a part of the CBP-1 app. Look, it's a continuation, guys, of what the Biden administration has done to our nation's borders. You know, we had some of the most secure borders under the Trump administration, and then they took steps, providing and granting exemptions that allow these people to come from all over the world. And the real problem here is the impact to local communities. Look, when we look at what's happening right now in South Texas is a great example. Because of what has taken place with Governor Abbott's Operation Lone Star, they have shut down Eagle Pass, and we're seeing a major movement to the west towards Sheriff Cleveland, who's here with us today, because they're seeing a lot of alien smuggling organizations who are extremely violent, directly linked to Cartel del Este, now moving into his area.
Sheriff Cleveland, you were a Border Patrol agent, and I do want to get your take on this. The man speaking here, Raul Ortiz, the U.S. Border Patrol chief under President Biden until he retired just last year. Watch.
I've never had one conversation with the president or the vice president for that matter. And so I was the chief of the Border Patrol. I commanded 21,000 people. That's a problem. We need to make sure that Central America, South America, Mexico, that those regions understand that if you pay a smuggler and you cross in between the ports of entry and you do not have a legitimate claim to some sort of asylum benefit, you're going to be sent back.
Mr. Ortiz making very clear that he did not have one conversation with President Biden or Vice President Kamala Harris during his tenure. Does this surprise you at all?
To be honest with you, it doesn't surprise me one bit. Look, this administration from day one hasn't cared about the border. And matter of fact, back in 2019, when President Biden was on the campaign trail and in a presidential debate on Univision, he mentioned that he would allow asylum seekers to come to the border and allow them in. So that's exactly what we're seeing. So them having no conversation with the chief of the U.S. Border Patrol isn't surprising to me.
Jason, I've talked to people who say that you've got to talk about these issues until we're almost tired of them. And that's when finally it'll make its way out into the general public who might not have the time to catch all these newscasts all the time. But Joe Biden, he could use executive orders here and close down this border and correct things, no?
Oh, he absolutely could. And not only that, he could enforce the rule of law. I mean, USC 1325 and USC 1324 to stop these human smuggling operations. Look, law enforcement along the border needs help from the federal government. Where are the U.S. attorneys? I've been with Sheriff Cleveland in his county, in Terrell County, and I've watched how he has expanded his operations to work with local, state, and federal law enforcement to help try to stop and surge and collaborate on this. But they need help from the U.S. Attorney's Office. They need help from other law enforcement agencies to hold the line down there. This is a real problem. And look, we talk about it through the lens of left, right, and all these other things, but we have to remember, citizens are being impacted by this. I mean, I was on the ground with the sheriff last year, embedded with him, and I watched as he was looking for days for 5 migrants who had been abandoned by these smugglers down there. And I watched as this man, along with Texas Rangers, found a female and then removed her, got her out of there. She was deceased. She had been dead for over a week. This is how violent these smugglers are. So this is real, guys. This impacts people. And then watch as this sheriff returned her body back to Mexico for the family. So don't think for a second this doesn't impact people, because these problems absolutely do.
All right. Jason Jones, Sheriff Thaddeus Cleveland, thank you for bringing us the real story, and also really for showing us or reminding us that the border problem is a problem for every single state, not just the border itself. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Great to be with you.
Certainly an issue.